So we go, new music from Derek Ryan, who's just one of many acts appearing at the Northern Ireland Country Music Awards, which are taking place very, very soon. To tell us more about the awards, two country music legends join me in the studio, Big T and Malcolm McDowell. Guys, welcome.
Thank you very much, Robin, for having us here.
Nice to be here.
Good to see you. Trevor, it's been a while since I've seen you. We were making a documentary about Downtown the last time.
Yeah, that was way before COVID even, you know.
Was it just? Yeah, but I'm going to do something really radio anarchy now before we talk about the Country Music Awards, because I know it's 50 years since you made your debut on pirate radio out in the North Sea. Tell us about those days.
Oh, would you believe the couple of photographs I put? They're the first things I think I put on Facebook, almost apart from a couple of photographs with Tammy or Dolly.
Yes, yeah.
But back in 1972, I had a camera which took colour slides, if you're old enough to remember them. You showed them with a projector. And they were great because you could use the wall or a screen. And would you believe 50 years later, I actually got them printed onto photographs. They've been in the house and I knew where they were. And I thought, I really must get those printed, you know. And I put them onto Facebook. They're good photographs of going out on the tender to the ship, Radio North Sea, the Mebo 2 as it was called. It was anchored 4 miles off Holland. Scheveningen was the name of the town. But it was 4 miles out in the North Sea, and the first time I went out, it was a force 8 gale.
Oh, wow. So you'd have to have a strong stomach for it.
Apparently, the ship had a flat bottom, which meant nothing to me. But if you tell a sailor about it, and they said it was anchored in the North Sea, and you went out to it. So, there are pieces of film you'll see on YouTube now and again. You can see the bows of the ship coming up out of the water, and then the stern comes up, you know. So it was a crazy place, but the radio studios in it were perfect. It was owned by two guys who owned a lot of sound system stuff.
But it would have been turntables in those days. Sure, the records would have been all over the place.
You had to go to tapes now and again.
Yeah.
There was a swingometer. There were two studios. There was the normal studio, and then there was the World Service studio, because it broadcast even in those days on AM, FM and shortwave. But in the World Service studio, there was a big swingometer on the wall, just like a big pendulum. Yeah. And there were graduations there, and this one just said, over. They did have to go to tape, surprisingly, well, not all that often.
Then, of course, we know what would happen. Downtown Radio would come along, and I mean, you're still doing the country stuff on Downtown Country today. And now you're involved in these Country Music Awards with Malcolm here, who again is somebody who's done a lot for country music in Northern Ireland, hasn't he?
Indeed he has. And Malcolm works tirelessly. Honestly, the sort of things Malcolm does, I think you're born or cut out for it, because there's so much organisation, there has to be so much contact with so many people. And I would just, he juggles, he could certainly get a job as one of those jugglers just to keep the plates going, because he really has so many things in the air. Yeah. And I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying, most people know that Malcolm hasn't the best of health.
That's why I'm not interrupting. I'm just sitting back here. This is the best therapy I've had.
But he does, he pushes himself.
It's not about money, it's not about anything like that. It's for the love of country music is why you do these things.
It's always been for the love of country music with me. From I was a young child, 4 or 5 years old, my mother had a record player, and she had bought the contents of a jukebox of a restaurant that was closing down, and I used to listen to every record. And it's very strange, because the records I listened to of my mother's, them singers, became massive legends, like Brian Cole and Philomena. Them records were from 40 years ago.
Yeah.
But still, they were the legends, and Philomena, of course, still is, and the Queen.
But like me, listening to those records as a child as well, it must be great for you as well. You think, God, we know these people now. We're friends with these people in the industry.
And I never take that for granted. when I was a child, I used to think of Susan McCann, Philomena, all these names as people that you would never, get to talk to, or, if you even did see them at a concert, it might be hello or whatever, but not to actually become that they're your actually closest friends because of the love of, the mutual love of music.
And then you look at the lineup that you have for this year's Country Music Awards, and I mean, it really is the lineup of who's who in Irish country, Malcolm. I mean, it must be difficult to start getting all those people together.
Well, the one main thing is to get a date that's going to be compatible with as many artists, which that logistics is probably the most difficult part of it. But saying that, you pick a quiet time of year when most artists are, not as busy as they have been at Christmas time and that. So there's usually more available. But I think the reason the awards are popular is because it's the public decide who win the awards.
Yeah, there's not a panel of judges somewhere sitting doing this. It's right down to the general public, the people who buy the records out there.
And the public vote, and nobody has a say in it. Nobody knows, not even myself. What I do now is, as soon as the voting company has closed, it sends the winners' names to the engravers, and it's put on the trophies, and they're sent then to the hotel, so I don't know.
Yes, yeah. And of course the awards are also a good platform for the up-and-coming artists.
That's one of the reasons for it, to highlight some of the artists that are out there are so, fantastic, and a lot of people don't get to hear them on radio. They don't get they don't get the platform perhaps that they deserve.
Yeah. So for the up-and-coming stars, who should we be looking out for at the minute? I had Cara McGillian on the show recently, who's brilliant.
Cara from Oma, yes, and a great backstory to herself and her family, and I'm delighted that she'll be there, and her mum will be there as well. But there's so many great names. There's a young guy called Gavin Gribben from outside Newry, and he was at the awards last year. He was actually at I think the first year and second year, but it's just showing the impression he's actually given to the country music industry, because he's out everywhere, and he's out there with the big names, with Michael English, all the big names he's with. So, but I've noticed from his first performance how well polished he is.
Yeah, he's come up with a great single, and it really is first class.
And he's very comfortable on the stage and very comfortable interacting. But there's a reason for that, is he's very personable. He's not trying to be anything other than what he is.
Yes, yeah.
And that's one of the things in country music is important too. It's meant to be raw. It's meant to be rough and ready.
Yes, yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about. George Hamilton IV used to always say it's people music,
Yes, yeah.
It's not meant to be flashy and all that. It's the things it's about, really, especially in Ireland, when you go right back to people leaving home and all the rest of it, and it's basic down-to-earth music.
Yeah.
Gutsy. And it's elaborated on, it's influenced by American country and so forth, but by and large it's different. It is its own genre,
Malcolm, when's the big night? 7th of February?
It's Tuesday the 7th of February, and one thing I have to highlight on the night too, because he definitely is a legend, that's Billy McFarland.
Oh yeah.
We'll be paying tribute to Billy on the night, because over 70 years singing.
Exactly, yeah. Wow.
That makes me feel very young. How about you, Trevor?
Well, Billy's the only guy I know older than me. Billy, everybody in the business has a good word of two people, Crawford Bell and Billy McFarland. They're so nice.
I want to mention the musical director though, because he does a huge job. His name's Mark Vaughan. But Mark does out all the charts for the musicians. They rehearse everything. They get it spot on, just like BBC RTE ready,
Brilliant. So. I'm looking forward to it. Trevor, good to see you as always. You're in Downtown Country every night at 7?
Yes, that's me, Sunday to Thursday, 7 to 10.
Brilliant stuff. Do you know what, Malcolm? We'll finish on one of your songs, shall we?
Well, that there's going to put people off going to the awards, but there we go.
Because you're releasing records all the time as well, aren't you, yourself?
But I don't really release them. I'm recording them because I want to do one album, and to be totally honest, I just want one album to say, okay, that boy has been on earth, and he's still torturing us with that stuff,
What are we going to go for? What are we going to play?
Misty Rolling Midlands. I was a big fan of the late Larry Cunningham, and that was a big hit of his.
Larry was an absolute gentleman. I got the chance to work with him a couple of times over the years.
And I was very lucky to have known him and his wife Beatrice as well. So we're very lucky in that respect that we did get to meet so many of those legends.
Exactly, yeah.
It's funny when you mention Larry. You know, when I was growing up and you were asking me about country music, I liked country music before I knew it was called country music because there were lots of songs in the chart then. They weren't pigeonholed so much. You know, you had in the 60s your Jim Reeves and Eddie Arnold, Make the World Go Away. All those sort of things were country songs that somehow escaped into the pop charts.
Yeah.
But back then they were just popular songs.
Yeah.
And in Ireland, Larry Cunningham would have been one of the guys I grew up to. In fact, the first night, Northern Ireland being such a small, big place, or a big, small place, first night I met Larry Cunningham was down in Brookborough, a show that a guy we used to have in downtown called the Ramblin' Man.
Yes, that's
he had been on. That was the first night I met Malcolm, and the stage was the flatbed of a truck.
Yeah.
And there were straw bales and things. It was marvellous. I remember a man, Sean McGrath, who was a promoter. He and I were standing at the side of the stage, sort of half backstage, listening to Larry Cunningham hitting the low notes. And I remember the wee hair standing in the back of my neck because, as Malcolm has said earlier, I'd only ever heard Larry Cunningham on RTE before that, you know, and never seen him in the flesh.
And you can correct me, but I think he was the first Irish artist to break into the British charts with a tribute to Jim Reeves.
That's right, the Jim Reeves tribute, that's right.
Guys, we could do this all day long. But we've got Beth Nielsen Chapman waiting to come on, so we have as well. So we'll get you back, we'll have a chat some other time. In the meantime, the best of luck with the awards. Trevor, good to see you as well. And here's our little tribute to the late, great Larry Cunningham. Fabulous song from Malcolm McDowell.